it's good. You know, sometimes you get your little brother excited when you're playing basketball and stuff, let him get the lead. And then you just come back and take it back.
Welcome to Bitter Rivals with Ted and Tom. Hey, Tom, they're calling Saturday night's game one for the ages.
Heard that cliche before.
They're talking about the corner in which the Immaculate Reception was made as the magic corner. And when you think about that particular corner of the stadium and what's happened in significant games going back 15 years, you've got Nigel Carter's catch.
Oh, a 95 game, yeah.
The 95 catch.
Ugh. These are all horrific memories in my mind.
You've got Little Giants. That's where Larry Caper scampered in overtime. You had the Little Giants. Was in that
Get off on these
Northwest. And Amp Campbell recovering the fumble in the Oregon game and returning it and bringing it to the house.
That was a pick, yeah.
A year after.
A scoop and score.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And this was called Rocket. You know, I had to laugh at D'Antonio. He says, "What was the?" I give a lot of credit to our offensive coordinator for that great call. It's called a Hail Mary, baby. You just heave it up and hope for the best. That's what it's called.
No, technically, it was called Rocket.
Rocket. Gotcha.
But, when you analyze the game, I think Russell Wilson really, he didn't, in my eyes, step down at all. He had a very good game if you look at it statistically. He was 14 for 21 for 223 yards. He was definitely a threat running, and he juked our defensive back out of his shoes with that fake pass 5 yards.
Oh, Isaiah Lewis?
Yeah, Isaiah Lewis.
Who deserved it since he was the one who said he was going to lay out.
And he's apologized for that. He got caught up in the moment.
Caught up in the moment. A lot of getting caught up in the moment these days.
But in analyzing that game, going into that game, no one was giving Michigan State a chance. And quite frankly, in the first 7 to 10 minutes of that game, I'm looking at my watch and thinking, well, if I leave by the third quarter, I'll beat the traffic, and maybe I can watch some of the later games.
Right, but you know what, Ted? You know, if someone would really look historically what Wisconsin's done since 2001 against teams that end up losing between 0 and 3 games, they're like 3-19. Yeah. So when they play, Michigan State's a really good football team. When they play a good team, they fold like a cheap suit, and they certainly did that. Now, at the outset of this game, I thought Wisconsin was really taking it to them. Then they throw the interception. Okay, yeah. You go back to either the first mishap when they were trying to make it 21-0. That pick, boom, all things started shifting. Then you got, of course, the safety, and it all unraveled after that.
Well, Nick Toon, obviously, he wasn't looking for the ball, number one.
Right.
But it was a poorly thrown ball.
Oh, it was a bad mistake.
He could have been steering right at the ball, and he would have been a contortionist to try and catch it.
Yeah, regardless of whose mistake it was, that was a critical part of the game. You know, Spartan Stadium crowd going crazy. I mean, all the trappings were there. You had College Game Day, you had homecoming, you had perfect weather.
Yeah, it was.
You know, it was just the ultimate. I mean, you could glow green, the whole concept. You had everything going for you, and it ended up. Now, from my personal standpoint, it's pretty well documented. I can't stand Michigan State, and I think you know that too.
Your daughter. In fairness, your daughter.
My daughter, Kelsey, she's in the student section cheering for her school, and you know what? You know, I put that as, you know, it doesn't matter. I still hate your school.
Let me ask you, when you sit there and you write that tuition check, is that like Ed Norton?
No, what it is, you know, cover your eyes and just move your head. Not look at what the check, you know, not look where it's addressed or anything like that. Hell, I'll let Tina do that. That's her alma mater. Let she send it in. But
I tell you one thing I had a problem with Bielema in the first half. If you go back and you look at the hit that was put on Monty Ball, that kid's bell was wrong.
And you've always been sensitive to that, about concussions and stuff like that.
And he's coming out at halftime with Aaron Andrews, and he says, I talked to the kid, and he says he's
ready to go.
He's ready to go.
I'll tell you what, the guy's good. And if he's healthy in the title game, because I think
God forbid anything happens to him in the next couple games.
No, I know.
Because that was clearly a concussion.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he was out on his feet.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I don't know who that doctor was, but I was scared for the kid. Now, he had a great second half.
Oh, what a difference when he was not in there. I mean,
Yeah.
the wind came out of the sails for Wisconsin. And but you got to have depth. Injuries are part of the game. And I also, Wisconsin had a lot of opportunities definitely to take control of that game, and they didn't. We'll break more about that down in the next segment.
We'll be back with Bitter Rivals.
They need to check themselves sometimes. But just remember, pride comes before the fall.
Making a specific.
Just here, pride comes before the fall.
Welcome back, Better Rivals with Ted and Tom. Tom Crawford, Ted Fox. We're breaking down Michigan State, Wisconsin. From my perspective, a very painful weekend as Michigan State continues to get these big victories on their way potentially to Pasadena, which would be the first time they go to Pasadena in 24 years. They got one more bullet in the gun that I have for Michigan State to lose, in my mind. Obviously, the Wisconsin game is, and when they have to play them in the title game down in Indy, which I think is pretty much set up right now. But they got to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I really don't have a lot of faith in the Cornhuskers.
Tom, I want to ask you a question, and I base this on my personal experience in the stadium and also experiences of other people that were both in the stadium and friends of Wisconsin alumni. I believe that the Michigan fan base took this loss worse than the Wisconsin fan base, based on what I observed and feedback post-game.
Well, I've often said that because we got to live with each other. This is where people don't understand. I've been pounding this nail for years. You have to deal with Wisconsin people. Don't have to deal with Michigan State people. They go on back to Madison, and they're shrouded from it. Okay.
They're like Ohio State. They
Exactly.
are the university in the entire state.
Yeah, they don't have that banner. I mean, if you don't go to Wisconsin, you go to all the branch campuses.
Well, except for that big Wisconsin-Green Bay basketball game that they scheduled.
Well, whatever, but they're all Badger fans. So you're not dealing with this is where the state of Michigan is so unique, because you've got to deal with the wrath of the rival. And that water cooler talk on Monday, you don't think that the Michigan State fans in corporate America this week are just, corkscrewing the rival?
Well, admittedly, they took a lot of flack last week.
Oh, yeah.
Deservedly
it was
so.
a double hit.
Deservedly so, based on I'm talking about the suspension of Will Golston and the negative publicity they
feedback.
got
Right.
off of what should have been a high.
Right.
So then to gauge the reaction of the U of M fan base versus Wisconsin, who actually played in the game, it was intriguing.
Well, I mean, and obviously you're dealing with a fan base with people like me or looking at message boards. Is that how you're gauging it?
Also in the stadium. I mean, in the stadium.
There was Michigan fans in the stadium.
No. I'm talking about the Wisconsin fans. I had 4 Wisconsin fans in the stadium with me, and this was a back and forth game.
Yeah, but
it had none of the Steve Adler high five over the opponent's head.
But you got to understand. People that are sitting in there, I mean, they're gonna behave. Because you're sitting at the 50-yard line. You think they're going to go in there and just
It wasn't the case the week before.
There's only one breed of fan.
It was not the case the week before.
But there's also one major breed of fan that does that in a stadium, and that's Ohio State. They walk in there like they own the place.
They do in Michigan Stadium.
Yeah, because there's so much hatred that fuels it.
And you've talked about going down to the Big Ten basketball tournament and how they had to stop playing the fight songs.
There's a lot of
Elaborate.
Well, there's a lot of it's this arrogance thing that people. But I don't understand where that arrogance comes. Well, I don't want to get into that. That's 45 minutes.
That's
60
That
minutes
is a
segment.
show special.
Okay. We'll do
itself.
that. When things are soft schedule-wise here. Okay. But I'm telling you what, Michigan.
That'll be our holiday special.
Michigan State, with that situation with Will Golston and that approach that they took to the Michigan game with kind of a Miami Hurricane-esque kind of approach.
Okay, fast forward, week later,
They cleaned it up.
0 penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
0 penalties.
I commend that.
And from my standpoint, I was looking for the quote-unquote reputation penalties, the ones,
Right.
the phantom flags where you're sitting there going, where'd that come from?
Well, message was sent because two entities right now are looking at an unsportsmanlike and violent behavior in football. The NFL, we saw that with Lions and Ndamukong Suh. The NCAA, they're looking, they're not tolerating it.
And if you think about just last week, I mean, it wasn't just the Michigan State. There was a whole 5 or 6 different
it's
examples.
It's an epidemic, and they got to put the clamps on it. And I think that the Michigan State received the message, and so I commend them for that. So we'll see how they go on the road. And Will Golston's now back in the fold when they go to Lincoln. See how he behaves, and see how the team performs. It's going to be a true test because they're coming off these 2 big highs at home. Now they got to go on the road. They did a really nice job on the road last time. They played an Ohio State team that was sputtering offensively, but now here's a bigger test, I think.
I tell you what I like most about Saturday night's game is Keith Nickel being the star of that game, receiver of the Immaculate Reception 2.
Yeah, and
after all he went through, going to Oklahoma, being second string to Sam Bradford, transferring back to Michigan State, losing out on the quarterback competition, making that position change. Right. If any kid deserved a gift like that, it was Keith Nickel. And, and all the time he spent in the weight room pumping up paid off.
He's playing Division I.
This is a game of inches, clearly.
Well, you understand that, but as Kirk Cousins said back in every one of those D1 players that are playing as a scholarship Division I football player, you truly are blessed. And you don't, you have nothing coming your way, in my opinion. But we're going to break down that play after this. Bitter Rivals, Ted and Tom.
This might sound arrogant, and if it is, it is. We're Michigan.
I'm telling them it's not over. It's just starting. It's not over. It'll never be over here.
Welcome back, Bitter Rivals, Ted and Tom. Breaking down, again, the third segment, that Wisconsin brain fart that they did their defensive approach, they tie Sparty 31-31. And Brett Bielema, as they're peeling off, timeouts like dollar bills, thinking he's going to get the ball back.
Well, what he said in the post-game presser was that on one of the punt returns, they almost broke it. And then on the one previous, they almost blocked it. So he was working the clock just like D'Antonio did in the first half to get that chance of creating something either on a punt return or blocking the punt.
But the way that the line surge was going on for Wisconsin, the back half of that fourth quarter, I thought if it got to overtime, the Badgers would be able to score touchdowns every possession they had an opportunity.
That's what they.
Whatever State did, I didn't know, but I know Wisconsin was going to be scoring touchdowns. Okay, and that would put them in a pretty good chance of winning that football game. And then the last play, rocket, if you will. Okay. Can you learn something from what Gary Moeller, the approach that the Michigan Wolverines did back in 1994? Cordell Stewart to Michael Westbrook. You're rushing 3 guys. You have Steve Morrison from Brother Rice as a linebacker back there as a DB. What the hell was that about? I still haven't got over that. That's 18 years ago. Fast forward whatever to this game. What does Wisconsin do? They rush 3 guys. They put a receiver back there instead of a DB.
Well, they had to because they were out of safety.
Well, then they were really the 2 guys in the field of play looked like linebackers to me. What the hell are you doing?
One was a linebacker.
Why? What the hell are you doing?
Well, clearly they should have rushed 2 and put 9 back in that part of the end.
Livid with that play. But the thing of it is, as soon as he caught it, and they said no guy, that's going to be overturned. It was legitimately a touchdown. It was, he give Keith Nickel a lot of credit. He turned his body. The guy is a Hulk. I mean, the guy's really put together. You knew he scored. Game over, and what a weird ending.
Was this deja vu all over again?
It was. I mean, it's all these last-second plays. They're all bad things. They're all bad. This was a bad thing for me personally. I was devastated.
I kind of liked it.
Of course you did. It was your school. You were there. What was it like there? Crazy?
It was
kiss
amazing.
The guy next to you?
No.
Close.
He just his breath was off. I think he must have had garlic at the tailgate.
Whoa. This is when
I was thinking about it.
this is a game when fans hug fans because there's just so much euphoria.
Well, and we stuck around. I was with my friend Glenn O'Mura, and we stuck around for about 5-10 minutes after the
Surprised you
game.
didn't stay there an hour.
There were a lot of people that just did not want to leave after that game was over with, and they stuck around. And most of the players didn't want to leave the field. It was
Why would they?
It was
You're never. I mean, I was there. Believe it or not. Don't ask me why, but a friend of mine got me tickets. I came up for the Levi Jackson touchdown when Michigan State beat Ohio State when Archie Griffin. That was in '74.
in the south end zone.
That was that was a south end zone. Levi coming right at us, and that game was crazy. Then they had to sit in and everything. That one probably
But
got
that
trumped
was a
by
half
this
an hour, right?
Well, yeah, then the refs go to Kellogg Center and figure out this. You talk about, this is where technology is really coming in. Because, boom, they can go up in the studio. They don't have to go to Kellogg Center and figure this out.
Not only did they go to Kellogg Center, they had already started their cars and were sitting in it by the time they finally
And
made
Michigan
it.
State fans were having and it was a beautiful day in November, unusual, and they all had this literally this sit-in right in the middle of the field. It was crazy. And Michigan State won that game. And, I didn't really, Ohio State going down, that was kind of cool, but it ended up didn't help. Michigan lost to Ohio State 2 weeks
So
later.
let's talk about what does this set up for the Big Ten?
Well,
where do we
Michigan
stand right
State is in pretty good shape. I think they're going to, even though I can't believe that Nebraska opened up as a 5-point favorite in this game. Now the money's on State because I think it's down to probably about 3 as we're in there.
This is same old, same old. Ohio State, the money was on Ohio State. Michigan, the money was on Michigan. Wisconsin, money was on Wisconsin. So that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I know. But Nebraska,
And D'Antonio, believe me, he's going to use every little bit of this to instill in his players how they're underappreciated and being disrespected.
Oh, yeah, you got to leverage.
From a motivational
Oh, yeah, you got to leverage all you can. But, they're playing good football. There's no question about it. Their defense is really coming up strong. Worthy is this freaking animal. The guy's on this. You're not going to be in the NFL, after these couple performances. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll have to see how it goes. I'm just hoping the Huskers knock them off because this Sparty, success is really pissing me off. Bitter Rivals, Ted and Tom, back after this. Welcome back. Our final segment of this episode of Bitter Rivals with Ted and Tom. Coming on next week, Michigan had a bye week. That was,
Tell me, what do you?
the bye week sucked because you're coming off a loss. It's just sour taste. I'm sure it's great for the football players, for the fans. It was nasty. It's just nasty. I want them to play a game.
It's nasty on a lot of different levels. You've got nothing to do. It's everyone else's team playing. Now, your second favorite team was playing Saturday night.
Well, that was like
you didn't
second
like,
favorite team 1A. I mean, I was bleeding red and white.
But, and we talked about this before off camera. The other thing you have to worry about bye weeks is the idle time with the football players. And inevitably, it doesn't happen every season, but I guarantee you, every 3-4 seasons, you're gonna find somebody suspended the following week
Right.
for
That's always-
violation of team rules.
I think that used to be a bigger problem in the past. I think Michigan was pretty humbled in East Lansing. I don't think they can be going out and celebrating, feeling full of themselves, to be honest with you. I don't think Michigan had any.
You don't think Michigan is going to feel full of themselves?
I mean, after they lost to Michigan State, I think they weren't feeling very full.
Let me ask you this question, because this ought to really get your dander up. Do you think that U of M's become irrelevant in college football?
No.
Based on their body of work and the last 3 years?
temporarily. I mean, they're still ranked 18th in the country, and they looked as bad as they were. They're still ranked.
No, I want to ask you, did they move up in the
No,
bye
actually,
week?
I think they did in one
So
poll.
they had a great practice?
Yeah. So that means they're,
Off of a loss, they moved up in the poll.
You know what that means? You know what that just did? It answered your question about relevancy. You're relevant when you move up without winning, without playing. You're relevant, okay? That's Michigan. We're Michigan, for God's sakes.
Now you understand why we've got an hour's worth of a special holiday program of why is Michigan arrogant?
Anyway, but let's go to the Purdue game. Big game. I mean, Purdue beat Illinois. Now, Illinois, you talk about fraud. I mean, some of these teams, and they got, you know, A.J. Jenkins was the best receiver in the country.
Illinois
And he
can
got
look so
neutralized.
good.
I know, but that's Illinois. That's a Ron Zook team. I mean, that's just the way his program has been. So anyway, they got to bounce back. It's homecoming.
This is Michigan's
Yeah,
homecoming.
it's homecoming.
Now this is
That's a whole other segment.
Please, let's talk about Tom
Going to the
Crawford.
Beta House for the homecoming.
Yes.
And hearing about how everybody else is doing. And
Tom is at homecoming weekend. He is
Most popular guy.
BMOC, big man on
everybody loves
campus.
me because I take an interest in them, my fellow Beta fraternity brothers. Okay.
By
Do they
interest,
take
he
an
means,
interest in me?
By interest, he means he listens to them talk about themselves and doesn't bump in with irrelevant things like his own family, at least from
Just the way I am.
from your Beta.
I like talking to myself. I'm interested in other people. And as Dale Carnegie used to always say, you made 10 times as many friends being interested in somebody else as opposed to trying to get them interested in
His phone is ringing off the hook this week from his fraternity brothers saying, now listen, you're coming to the Beta House before the game, aren't you? Okay. Now, if you have any problems, you let me know. I'll come and I'll pick you up. Because we've got a lot of things to talk about, which is code for, I need to tell you about all the great things I've been doing.
Anyway, fast forward after the pregame brunch, you go to the homecoming game, Michigan-Purdue, they got to win it, but also at noon on that day, a very important game's going on in Lincoln, Nebraska. Very important to me.
11 a.m. Central kickoff.
Yeah. So maybe Sparty will be asleep. I don't know. It's maybe Nebraska will be asleep. I don't know, but it's a very scary game because if Michigan State wins this football game, they got a clean path all the way to Indianapolis, and then one game. They got to play Wisconsin again. It looks like, and that'll be tough because they'll be a little irritated. I'm hoping and praying.
Well, second tough road game. Ohio State, followed up by Nebraska.
Right.
If they can get through October.
Well, my hat's off
I
to
mean,
them.
going into the season, we were thinking 2-2, 3-1 would have been a great October. Now it's guaranteed 3-1.
Right.
With
But you should have
high hopes of
you
4-0.
should have higher standards than that if you're a legitimate top 10 program.
We're humble, unlike other schools.
Humble. You should win home games if you're legit. You should win home games. So these last two, you should have won those games. But you got one down in Columbus, even though it wasn't a very good Ohio State team. I give you major kudos for that.
Watch Ohio State; they're coming on.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm talking about that was a big thing, with beating them on the road. So now you got to do it again down in Lincoln. We'll see what happens. Hopefully next week on Better Rivals with Ted and Tom, we'll be talking about a big Michigan State loss.
And we'll catch up with Tom on his pregame and postgame Beta House conversations.
There you go. So we'll see you next week.
See ya.
LSU rivalry has gone. It's gone, well, frankly, to the billboards. Check out what we found out last night. Near the Frandor Shopping Center in East Lansing, a digital billboard ripping Michigan. Just every way you can, minutes after the game. It's sponsored by Bitter Rivals, who started a website called MichiganIsOurLittleSister.com. There are 8 different images, and they will be up all week. In Frandor and one on I-96, Bitter Rivals paid a few $1,000s for those, and you can get all sorts of mementos if you go there. If you're really into the little sister thing and you really want to rub it into your Michigan fan,
All right.
they got it covered.
Well,